Welcome everyone to Comics from the Multiverse, episode 419. I am Peter, and joining me as always is Matt.
So like I was saying last week, we never miss a show.
Very funny. This is a DC Comics podcast. We get together to talk about DC books we read this week. Coming up on today's show, we have Absolute Power issue 2, Batman 151, Birds of Prey issue 12, Shazam 14, and The Boy Wonder issue 4. So that is what's coming up. I was planning on doing a Patreon book. I'll catch up on that next week. I just got finished reading my books before we started. I am very sleep deprived and struggled to even finish those books. Not because they were bad. I'll make that clear. This is not a comment on quality.
No, I don't know. So I try to read my books through the week. You know, when we had that Tuesday and they would get released digitally, made things easier. And I know a lot of times Pete and Connor end up reading all theirs in like a batch. I don't know how they do it, because I did that last night and I was getting very drowsy, and it wasn't for anything. You know, I was enjoying Birds of Prey. It was just one book after another, and I was like, oh my God.
That's just habit at this point.
Yeah.
I just did not get a lot of sleep last night, and that's the simple reason for it.
Big D23 guy, Pete is. He's watching the streams live. He can't wait for the new Jared Leto Tron movie.
Yeah.
Incredibles 3, Toy Story 5. They're just adding numbers to IP now. I love it. And by love it, I mean I detest it.
Yes, I just don't care. I don't care about the whole shebang. It's fine. Yes, so yeah, welcome to the show, everyone. We'll get into the usual things, but first of all, I mean, you kind of already alluded to this a little bit. But Matt, how was your week?
It was okay. It was busy. I don't remember much because everything feels like a blur. I think it was good. I've just been very tired, so I think I ended up with heat exhaustion a little bit. I went home from work early yesterday, took a 2-hour nap, and felt alive for the first time all week. So, and now we're here.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess mine was fine. Probably worth mentioning that new Batman animated show started, not this week, it was last week, it was our off week. But I did watch the first 3 episodes, and it was pretty good.
Here.
The new Taking Clayface was probably my favorite of the 3 episodes.
Ooh.
And unsurprisingly written by Greg Rucka, so no wonder it was good.
That checks out.
Yeah, so no, I did plan on watching more of it. I just kept meaning to I'll throw an episode on, and I've just not done it in the last week. But it was pretty good. So
cool.
Other than that, not a whole lot to report on really. Obviously, like you say, D23 is going on, so there's a bunch of news coming from that for various things. Yeah, just I don't know. I feel like we're just sort of like dragging out of the end of the summer now. It's just we're just kind of like coming to a crawl before we get to a bit of cooler weather and maybe some excitement for, I don't know, something like Halloween, which is more my jam. Yeah,
I'm excited. Temperatures drop here, and that's how we know. And it's seeming to take forever. It's been real sticky and miserable, so hence the heat exhaustion for me. But yeah, once that fall breeze hits, I become a happy boy.
Yeah, I know we're building up to the October season, as silly as that sounds, because we've started recording our October episodes of Screams After Midnight. Because which we have to start doing early, because we try and put out as many as humanly possible in the month of October.
my brother hit me up and he's like, hey, we should do a 31 for 31. And I'm thinking he's talking about like a hockey trip where we try to hit up all the stadiums over the course of the year. And I was like, what? He goes, oh, for Halloween. We try to watch a horror movie a day for Halloween. And I sent him my log from last year. It wasn't every day, but it was a very, very much inspired by Pete and Tim. And he goes, okay, well, never mind. You already do that. So we are going to try to work on something. I might actually be talking to Pete closer to October, because Pete's very good at making themes and stuff. So
yeah, I mean, Yeah, one a day is not too hard. If you know, for 1 month, it's possible.
The problem is for me that is it's football season, it's hockey season. I still watch wrestling pretty regularly, so that takes some days. So usually what we do is we load up 2 or 3 days a week,
Sure.
and we'll watch 2 or 3 movies, so it evens out. And lately it's been the last couple of years, it's been a lot more rewatches. You know, like we went back through most of the Halloween movies last year. So, you know, since my wife hadn't seen 6 or the Rob Zombie one, and I, you know.
Yeah, because she has to see those two.
6 actually, just because of the head state we were in, 6 wasn't that bad, you know.
Was that head state being rammed by a car in the face?
I mean, things happen. It is Vegas. But yeah, no, this year I think I'm gonna work back through. I did Child's Play last year, I think. So I'm looking for another franchise. And maybe Phantasm, that's only like what, 3 movies? 4 movies?
Well, it's 5 in total now.
There's 5? Okay. So
The fifth one
I've gone
came
through most of the major franchises at this point.
The 5th one came much later though, and it was very, very bad. So I mean,
Gotcha.
I don't know if I'd necessarily insist that you do all 5 of them, admittedly, but
Yes.
yeah, I don't know. That said though, there's a lot of like me and Tim have got a list of like 15 2024 movies that we still need to get to.
Yeah.
Been a lot coming out this year, so there's plenty of new stuff to watch.
And the fact that you guys are managing to be pretty spoiler free is pretty good. You know, that speaks a lot to your guys' discipline.
Oh yeah.
Or if you've been spoiled by stuff, you haven't said anything. So.
Not for horror movies.
That's good.
No. I mean, Deadpool and Wolverine, I've seen every goddamn cameo that's in that movie. Because
people couldn't make it through the first day. It drives me nuts.
But even like people who are in the movie are just posting images now.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, I'm glad I don't care about this because I'd be livid if I did.
That's it. There's a certain character that shows up that I immediately thought of Pete. And it made me laugh. And every time it comes across my feed, it fills me with a little bit more joy.
Oh well. Anyway, we'll get into the Comixology top 10, shall we? Or Kindle top 10 or whatever we're calling it now.
Yeah.
But yeah, we have a mixed list once again, as we've had for the last month. So Matt, what do you think is the #1 book as of right now on the Kindle comic book rankings?
Here's the thing: there's a Batman book out this week, but there was also a brand new Uncanny X-Men. So I'm going to go with Uncanny X-Men #1.
That is correct. Uncanny X-Men #1 is indeed #1.
That's an XSL.
Yep. But #2 is not Batman, no.
No. Absolute Power?
Absolute Power is #2. #3 is Scarlet.
G.I. Joe character.
It's got a Thompson book.
Yeah.
So that's something. 4 is Avengers.
Okay.
5 is Batman. 6 is The Power Fantasy, which is a Kieran Gillen book, so that filthy pervert Connor's probably rubbing himself up against it in the comic shop.
How? That's why he got sent home. I don't know. That's not even up on Living Comic Geeks. It's not coming up in the first couple rows.
I mean, you always say that, but you always just scroll down and find it much, much later.
I'm still scrolling, unless I overlooked it. Power Fantasy. Weird.
Yeah, it doesn't really matter. #7 is Ultimate Black Panther. #8 is Venom War, which is a new miniseries. #9 is Doctor Strange, and #10 is Birds of Prey. So only 3 DC books in the top 10, but it was a later week for their release schedule, so not too terrible. Shazam came in at 14, below a few more bigger Marvel books. Gotham City Sirens at #15, so I guess that's okay for that.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not like Poison Ivy, well, or Harley Quinn or Catwoman actually sell that much digitally, so...
No. So, yeah.
I guess that's okay.
How many war event things are going on at Marvel right now? Because there's the Blood Rain, now there's the Venom War. Yeah.
2.
Yeah. Is that the only 2? It feels like there's
Well,
more.
I don't know, but you just listed 2, so 2.
Yeah. Oh, wow. So Power Fantasy, I finally found it, but it's Casper Wingard and Kieran Gillen. So, yeah, Connor's definitely getting thrown out of the comic shop.
Yep. Inappropriate behavior, no doubt. But yeah, that's the rankings. And there's actually no real news this week, which isn't really that surprising given that we had 2 heavy weeks of news in the last 2 episodes between the solicits with all the all-in stuff and then a few more all-in things from Comic-Con. We have a quieter week, which, given how sleep-deprived I am, I'm not actually that mad about. So
we're gonna speed run this episode because I got stuff to do and take a nap maybe. So naps are important, Pete.
Mm-hmm. So we can get straight into the books. Absolute Power, issue 2, Mark Waid writing with Dan Mora on the art. That's pretty good. Chapter 2 of the event. What are you laughing at?
I just thought it's pretty good. And, Mark Waid, he can write. And Dan Mora can draw. Okay, the next book. That's just, that's what your vibe felt like for a minute? And I thought you were going for it.
I'm just, I don't know. Okay, I'm just... It's very good. It's a good event, which sometimes it's rare to find good events in comics.
You come out of the gate strong with the first issue, and then issue 2 kind of feels like a step down in just pacing and stuff because it came out so hot. But it does some very curious storytelling in the second issue, because this is what 7 in the DC fashion. These events tend to be.
I don't actually know if it is 7.
Mm-hmm.
I want to say it's only 4.
Only 4. Let's see.
Based on solicits, because this is not lasting past.
You would be correct. It is 4. Looks like the last issue. Okay. Yeah. So, and that's the case. They're not as curious because it's definitely moving the story forward. Yeah,
because actually, to the point you were making there, I was going to say that this only being 4 issues means the pacing's a lot more brisk. So. This issue, it's the heroes that have reconvened back at the Fortress of Solitude, which was set up in that Superman issue, which tied into this. Like I suspected, you don't really feel like you've missed anything here, but that issue did give some context for like Superman waking back up, whereas this issue just starts and he's back up, and Batman just kind of says, "Hey, that black suit's the only thing keeping you together," and he kind of like, is like, yeah, I'm in pain, Bruce. That's like, okay, that's all you need. But so you did get some more context from the tie-in, but it does flow well enough if you skipped it. So obviously my favorite part of this issue has to be all of the bigger heroes who are here bickering about who should be in charge because we need a strong leader. Wonder Woman stepping in, Aquaman stepping in, Terrific stepping in, Batman's like, what are you talking about? I'm got more experience than you, Terrific. And they're all just bickering about who the right person is to lead. And then just over on the other side of the fortress, Nightwing yells out, "Can I have everyone's attention?" And he's standing with the Titans and makes a big leader speech about how they have to all stand together, about how they're going to survive and beat Waller because they have the determination and the willpower to do so, even without their powers. And the next page is just Batman being like, "That's my boy," which really made me laugh. He's like, he's not going to argue with Dick. He's like, yeah, if Dick's taking charge, Dick's taking charge.
I love that too, and the look on Terrific's face is just, he just says, "Wow." Like, he's never thought of Dick. Like, he doesn't even think about Dick Grayson, right? And then so when he says, "Can I have the attention?" and that's what gets everyone to turn around in the speech that he gives. That's real good. Character plot. I do like too that not just Dick Grayson, but the Titans have been central to the last couple events. So, right, Dark Crisis, that was about Dick leading the heroes.
A part of it was, yeah.
And then we had Beast World, which was all about the Titans and Dick, and that. So now here, him running point on this, it feels right.
Well, I think more to the point, though, I think that this sells or reaffirms the idea that the Titans became the main team in the DCU. And Dark Crisis was about setting that up. Beast World was an event during their tenure, and this is establishing that even when the rest of the Justice League, it isn't actually actively the Justice League right now, but I'm still calling them that for a group name. Like, even with them all standing there, Dick still takes charge as the leader of the Titans, and the Titans are taking charge to lead whoever's left. And, Dick just starts out saying, okay, this is what we need, right? For some reason, Green Arrow's with Waller, so Black Canary, you're on that. Go and, like, get him and, like, slap some sense into him or whatever, right? Batman, the Mother Box is an issue, to go do that, which, by the way, does neatly set up the Batman issue we're going to talk about next. Superman, go find some aliens and other things in space to help us.
And the multiverse, so they're pulling that in too.
Oh, and the multiverse, true, yeah. So like he just starts dishing out orders, and of course, if anything, the issue I would say gets a little less interesting once the villains all show up and start fighting. That's when it becomes a bit more normal. But these few pages with Dick and the Titans taking charge, I felt like a nice natural evolution in what we're doing in the DCU right now, and it almost makes me think that, okay, this, not that I wasn't confident before, but the way Waid is juggling all these characters in this event is like, okay, he's perfect for a Justice League book. I'm glad he's doing that. That is absolutely spot on. The only thing is that, you know, I hope the Titans don't feel like they take a back seat at the end of this, because this feels like a good way that they're sort of saying, hey, they have taken this position at the top of the DC food chain. And I hope it's not just all going to fall by the wayside once we move on past this event.
Yeah, I'm hoping that that's what the rotating kind of cast, the Justice League Unlimited kind of is so we don't lose sight of that, right? So we can pop up some Titans in playing with these other, you know, more traditional Justice League members. Yeah. And it just feels like they're on, you know, almost like in sports when a player's on loan, right, from another organization that they're close with. I think that'd be real cool.
Well, I mean, it's less about them showing up in the league book for me, and more just about, like, is their Titans book still going to feel like they're the main team in the DCU? And with Taylor not being on the book anymore come October, it does kind of feel like they might be getting diminished a little bit. So, like, I'm kind of hoping that doesn't feel that way, but it's kind of what I'm bracing for. But this, at the very least, though, did feel like a nice next step in the journey that they've been taking over the last year and a half or so. So that's cool. But yeah, villains show up, including John, who has been brainiac'd up with tech, which obviously we had that epilogue page teasing that last time. Yeah. So
Brainiac Superman, right? We have Cyborg Superman, now we have Brainiac Superman.
There you go. That's a word for it. You know, it was nice to see Clark feeling like concerned, like realizing that John's been taken. But yeah, so we get a big fight. Some of the heroes do get nabbed. Looks like Wonder Girls get nabbed, Red Tornado gets nabbed. But as the fight progresses, a couple of different things happen. Obviously, there's some Amazos getting involved. Like at one point, who is it that slashes him in half? It's Zealot slashes one of them in half, and he just kind of repairs himself. But the big thing is, though, is Flash doesn't seem to have his speed, but Superman has offered them all the various tools that he's got around, and on top of like outfits that Clark and Bruce made for everyone in case of emergencies, the Flash has also got a hover bike. so Wally's on a hover bike, and he ends up dragging Cyborg John or Brainiac Superman, whatever you want to call him. Keep in mind, the whole time Clark is yelling, "John, you in there? Listen to me, son. Yeah, listen to me. Come out."
He's really trying the compassion, and we see, you know, as they're fighting also the Amazo drones that are coming through, we see Flash grab something like in a box from the fortress, and it turns out that it's kryptonite, and that's how they're going to try to get through to Brainiac. Yeah.
There was lots of box jokes I was tempted to make. I'm not going.
Yeah, I'm glad you didn't, because there is a mother box at play. There's a box of kryptonite. You know.
Like honestly, it was deciding between what's in the box and Dick in a box. I couldn't decide which one to go with it. So so yeah, Wally ends up dragging John after John's tricked Superman, because John kind of pretends to be John again for a second, but he's just kind of faking it to lure Superman in. One of the things that happens is that Aquaman and Wonder Woman break the city of Kandor intentionally. To release all the mini Kryptonians who are now all flying around like pests, like attacking Brainiac Queen, which is interesting as a concept.
Well, the thing about the people of Kandor, look up and they see a Brainiac and they go, "This is our time." Right? Yeah.
And what's interesting as well is that Brainiac Queen has had her mind wiped of Brainiac, so she's like, "This bottle city seems familiar. There's something very oddly comforting about this. I might keep this for myself."
I shall. Wait, I think I shall keep you.
Yes.
Yeah, just very offhanded.
So, yeah. If I have a critique about the art, and I don't have many because Dan Mora's art is fantastic, I do think the page where Wally like drags John and then it explodes, I do think it's a little unclear on that page exactly like what he did. Ultimately, I just decided, oh, he just kind of like he just jumped off and let it go into a wall to explode to like try and take him out. But I thought he was doing something more meaningful than that. So I was really confused for a second as to what he actually did there.
Yep, I had to go over that page 2 or 3 times to kind of look at, because a lot of the little action stuff to show scale, it's a lot smaller.
Yeah.
Right. So when you see the bike going to the wall and whatever, you get kind of lost in the chaos.
Yeah. Ultimately, Mr. Terrific, Blue Beetle, and was it Wave? Video Wave? Waveform?
Soundwave, something
Soundwave, something like that.
It's one of the junior JSA members.
Yeah. Basically, they reconfigure the Phantom Zone projector into a portal, basically a boom tube, right? They basically turn it into a boom tube maker, and evacuate what heroes they can that way. The big dramatic thing towards the end of the issue, though, is that Dreamer, of course, has been forced to work for Waller. She's here as part of all this, and she basically sees what's been done to John, sees Brainiac Queen like winning against Superman, and says, "You know what? Enough of this shit. Like, I don't care. I'm throwing in the towel. I'm helping them." So, because Superman actually sets the self-destruct sequence in the fortress, Dreamer seemingly dies in the explosion. It's a whole big thing. So, now it's comic books. We don't see a body,
right?
So I'm not expecting necessarily anything to stick.
Until Waller's holding the corpse of Dreamer, like Superman in holding Supergirl in Crisis, I'm not going to believe it.
Yeah, but she won't be looking as distressed. She'll be holding it with a smirk in her face, like, haha, betray me, will you? Haha. For I am the wall.
I'm going to bring you back to life to do this again, just because I can.
Ultimately, John may be starting to realize who he is a little bit by the end, but Brainiac Queen just grabs him and kind of like overrates him again and makes sure that he's like kept in line. Yeah. So we got all that going. The little glimpse of hope at the end, though, is that maybe Green Arrow isn't completely working for the bad guys. Maybe he was pretending, because they've tasked him with sort of looking through and cataloging everything they got from the Hall of Justice or whatever, because he's the only one that'll know what any of it is. And he seemingly finds Our Man's Hourglass. And when he picks it... No? Is it not?
No, this was that in the lead-up special that we read.
Oh, okay.
The time guy, I totally forget his name.
I know you were saying that, yeah. I assumed this was Our Man's, but that makes sense.
At least that's how I read this. I mean, because of it introducing that in the way that... there's something else in here that got introduced. It might have been some of the Dreamer stuff that was introduced in that special as well. So...
No, I mean, to be fair, given that was in a special leading up to this, you're probably right. But I saw an hourglass and my mind just went immediately to Hour Man. But Oliver smiles and says, "Time's up," and that's the cliffhanger at the end of this issue, which implies that he's got a plan, perhaps from the inside, and we'll see maybe what that is. But so... No, I mean, honestly, it's not quite as good as the first issue, because the first issue was basically just nothing but banger after banger of pages. This, once it got to the fighting, it felt like, okay, we're just in the fighting now. But I did really like the Dick taking charge stuff in the first chunk. I did like some of the details along the way, with, just the little moments of, like, making the portal device, using the Phantom Zone projector. I have to laugh, though. When I was looking for news before we started, and there wasn't any, but one of the things I did see on Newsarama was a headline that said something to the effect of, "The Fortress of Solitude has been Superman's, like, home for, decades and decades, but it's no more." And all I could think was, but he, like, moved to a new one in the Bermuda Triangle, like, a couple of years ago. It's not been the same fortress all this time. So, like, they're going for this big dramatic headline, "Oh, the fortress has been destroyed." And I'm like, well, yeah, but he switched before.
Just since I've been reading comics, the fortress has been destroyed like 2 or 3 times by different villains. So, Kryptonian crystals can regrow.
Yeah, it's the same.
I'm not that worried.
It's the same with the Hall of Justice versus the Watchtower. Since I've been reading comics, we've flip-flopped between the two of them, like, 8 times, it feels like. So, I don't know. It's just...
And now that we're introducing this time aspect of the hourglass, I don't know of how much of that's gonna stick, right?
Oh,
Like,
sure, but
if
I'm not getting at that. I'm just getting that they're sensationalist headline for clicks, like
Mhm.
try to like make something sound like a big deal or be dramatic when
Yeah.
it's not.
right. I mean, if it draws more eyes to the comics, cool. Go and read it, but don't just take the headlines. Just be like, hey, I want to know why.
But who's on Newsarama in the comic book section who isn't already reading comic books?
True. But then you have to ask, why are they making that sensational headline? Who are they trying to pull in?
True. I guess there's a segment of people who just go and read the stories because they want to know what's going on, even though they don't read comics because they like the movies or whatever. That's possible. But if that type of person's probably never going to read the comic anyway if they're already
True.
got that attitude. But
True.
anyway, yeah, it's a pretty good issue. It's definitely an issue 2. It's definitely lesser than issue 1, but still a solid second chapter. I think Waid's got a really good handle in bouncing all the characters around, which is a really good sign for his Justice League Unlimited book.
We've said this with World's Finest, that when he introduces all these characters, he's really adept at spending time between them, so it doesn't feel like anybody's getting lost. They all
honestly,
feel like,
the biggest story in World's Finest at times, and I do enjoy that book a lot. It's had a lot of great stuff in it, but at times it feels like he's just having fun. So all the stories feel a bit too lighthearted at times. You know, like they don't feel like there's like real stakes to them. This event does feel like it has stakes. It does feel like he's taking it very seriously. So I'm hoping Justice League Unlimited is more towards this, because I don't want it to just be a second World's Finest. So I want it to feel a bit more mainline.
Yeah, I just meant on how he balances the characters and perspectives and who, we spend time. It's not just, World's Finest is a Superman Batman book, right? But, we've also got a lot of Dick Grayson in there, and spending time there. So, and then Mora, the art, there's a breakdown where Batman uses Sonics on the Amazo, and there's just a breakdowns here, what he does with the colors. Everything is blue or red or yellow. It's just using those primary colors. And it looks really cool, like just looking at it as a piece of art. And this book's full of stuff like that. So yeah, a lot of fun stuff here.
Yeah, the colors are used really well. Like, one panel, like there's one yellow panel on that page, for example, and it emphasizes the pain that Batman's feeling in that moment. There's just little things like that makes a certain panel or something pop. When the Flash comes in the speed bike or the hover bike, it's kind of the only strong red on that page, so he really sticks out versus all the blues and other colors that are there. So it's just smart use. It's just a good balancing of things. Arts, I mean, Mora's always excellent, and this is by and large excellent. There's that one page where I think the layout's a little confusing and doesn't make it clear what actually happened, but other than that, the reactions on the faces of the characters, from heroic moments to inspiring moments to moments of fear, all the way to the end where Waller's got a smirk thinking, I've got this cinch, we've got 80% of the world's heroes and we're going to hunt down the rest, and like all of it works really well. It's good storytelling, having a lot of fun with this event. What are you giving Absolute Power issue 2, Matt?
I'm gonna give this a solid 8.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think 8 out of 10 makes sense to me. Yeah.
Right.
Solid issue. Batman issue 151, legacy number 916. Chip Zdarsky writing with Mike Hawthorne on the art. So this is such a weird case, and I said this last time, but it's such a weird case where a regular ongoing book is the tie-in to an event for several issues, and it's an improvement over the regular run. But it really is. Like, I definitely enjoyed this way more than I'd been enjoying any of Zdarsky's like ongoing run.
It shows that if you put a little bit of limits on Zdarsky and not let him do whatever he wants, he's capable of good storytelling.
It's so weird because normally you'd say, no, like, let writers do what they want. But yeah, he's the sort of guy where if he's left to just do whatever he feels like, I just don't like what he comes up with. But if you say, here's what you have to accomplish with this story, and he just goes and writes it, he'll write a really competently well put together like sequence of panels and words.
Yeah, and he's very good at tension too, which I feel comes from him being an artist primarily, because this is essentially a heist issue.
Yes, it's
and I feel the tension throughout and the way that he doles out. Like, again, I don't like everything that happens in it. There's a couple of weird, wonky things. However, when we get to the main crux of it, everything works.
But by and large, though, it's solid. Yeah, I mean, the only thing really is that going straight into this from Absolute Power, like, obviously this takes place after Absolute Power issue 2, but while obviously Batman goes through the portal with everyone else, it does just kind of feel like he's casually showing up to talk to Selina, like, wait, how did you get here? Like, I feel like you were just at the fortress, but it's fine, whatever. But it does follow on from what they said in that issue, which is that Batman's job is to find the mother box that Amanda Waller's using to do a lot of this stuff. And well, who does he go to for a heist? Well, obviously he goes to Catwoman. So this is a Bat and Cat team-up issue where he enlists her help to go to was it an island off the coast of Gamora called Okinawa, because that's yeah,
it's actually in Japan, Okinawa. It's one of there's an American military base there.
All right, but they said it's close though, right?
Yeah. No, you're right.
Yeah,
but it's not a made up place. It's it's not.
I just I mean, it does sound Japanese, but I just assumed it was made up because Gamora's made up.
Right. So.
What's the place they always use for like a Middle Eastern country?
Oh, geez. There's Bialia. There's Karak.
That's the one I was thinking of. Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
You throw in wherever Black Adam. Why am I drawing a blank? Kondak,
yeah.
You throw Kondak in there. So.
Yeah, well, it's something they do because they don't want to villainize a real country, so they make up one.
Which, fair enough, right?
Yeah.
Like, but I think it's funny too that Gamora's been another one of those that the first time it really popped up was in Tom Taylor's Superman. You know, as when they brought Jay Nakamura in, and so
well, that's something a lot of Absolute Power in general is doing. Like Mark Waid really isn't ignoring any for better or worse. Like as much as I hate the failsafe stuff, like he does address, hey, failsafe came from Batman, and that's something that's going on. Brainiac Queen came from Superman. Superman references that in that book. Everything Waller's been doing has been building up in several books, including Green Arrow. And there's a lot of good editorial oversight right now that's connecting everything together, which is fun to see. So Bruce is like, hey, we have to go undercover. I'll pose as some guy representing like a private military contractor or whatever. You'll be my assistant. So she's got like a red wig on. He's got like a blonde wig, and so it's not quite matches Malone, but there's a bit of a vibe here.
Blonde Bruce is not like that. Is like worst case scenario. It's just it feels wrong, you know.
It is very strange. But basically, they're banking on not letting her sit in the meeting that he's got with this like general or whoever it is. Yeah. But that's part of the plan, so she can go and snip around on her own and hopefully find the mother box. So that is indeed what she does, and she does notice that there's some Suicide Squad members walking around, and I actually laughed out loud because later on when she actually starts fighting them, she's like, "So are you like Deadshot, or are you like Deathstroke, or like is Deadeye?" Yeah. But I appreciated that joke because I could before that joke I could not have told you which one he was.
All I can remember is he's Waller's nephew.
Yeah. I mean, I know he's neither Deadshot or Deathstroke. I know that obviously, but I can't tell you what he's doing.
For whatever reason, Deadeye it leaves my brain as soon as I read it. So
it's because it's too similar to Deadshot. We've already got like the sniper marksman character from Suicide Squad.
Well, and I just want to know how. I know he's psychic based, but he's got like a Cyclops eye in the middle of his mask. I'm assuming he has two regular human eyes.
You would assume.
So how is this working? I don't know. Try not to think about it too much.
Reflectors inside his visor.
Sure.
Something. I don't know. Comic book logic.
There's something that happens here is when it's revealed that Batman is off with the general, where the general turns around. He's talking about how they built a bunker, and when he turns back, Bruce is in there in a full costume.
Whoa. Yeah. Not a full costume. He's got the cowl on, but he still looks up, he's still got his shirt unbuttoned and he's still wearing the regular trousers. So he's sort of like, he's taken off the wig and the mustache, he's brought up his cowl, and he's sort of in the middle of undoing his shirt, and the general just turns around and sees this and is like, ugh. This was a funny moment to me. One, I'm like, Bruce, is this really the time to make your switch right like behind him in a split second? But secondly, it's funny to me because we often talk about him Batmaning out of a scene where, the character turns around and he's just gone. This is like a really weird inverse of that, where the character turns around and someone's become Batman.
Yes.
That's just funny to me.
I just think, just him standing there, he's like business casual Batman. Like, it's just very funny.
Anyway, so Clock King's with Deadeye and Black Alice, and Black Alice starts using her magic, and Selina realizes, oh shit, she's a magic user. She's going to detect that I'm here, and sure enough, she does. So very quickly, it becomes this fight. Batman comes swooping in as well. And it's a whole thing. The big thing, though, is that Bizarro shows up. He's got like a cybernetic arm. Now, I did not, it was only a few months ago, but I don't remember where Bizarro was at the end of that Jason Aaron story, but this doesn't feel like it matches up to me.
No, so I think this is the Red Hood and the Assassins, Red Hood and the Outlaws.
Okay.
Bizarro, which is different than Bizarro from the Cube Earth Bizarro. This is the one that I kind of like, this Bizarro. So he's kind of like Frankenstein's monster in that. So him having the cybernetic arm's a whole new type of vibe that I like. It makes him seem scary.
I think I prefer this version. I think I prefer the version of Bizarro that's like the result of like an experiment gone wrong than there's a Bizarro world with lots of Bizarros.
Yeah, because you can still do that. He wants to do well. He just is not. He doesn't have the understanding of it all, right? And he still wants to make Superman happy, but he has that twisted sense of logic and stuff, and he gets manipulated more than anything. And you can still do that with Experiment Bizarro. But yeah, here I forgot. I know they introduced him in the page early on. Like you see him standing there as they're getting off the plane. So when Clock King is counting down, I kind of spaced that it was Bizarro. So when I get to that page that he lands, it really got me with a wow moment. So
I knew it was him because he's one on the cover, and two, they did show him earlier on.
Yeah.
For that one page, so I kind of expected him at some point, I knew it was counting down to him.
This was also one of the books I was dozing off while reading because it was getting late. So that might have factored into it, but yeah. And again, with coloring here, the purples and the blues really hit against the jungle when he shows up. So yeah, for me, it made a real big wow moment.
Yeah, Batman basically just tricks him by saying there's like a surprise in the car for him, by speaking in the opposite way. I
still hate reading it.
Yeah. So yeah, it's a whole thing. But Selina basically tries to get the mother box, and turns out that it's not really here, but there's also like a bomb that gets set off as well, where there's a timer and there's an explosion. It ends up not really doing that much damage. I mean, you see her flying out of the building in the explosion, but it's just kind of like, it was a bit of a rough bump, but she's fine. There you go, whatever.
So they go through the boom tube and they end up in the Waller family mausoleum.
Yes, and which is not on Earth. At first it seemed like it was on its own little bubble, which it is technically its own little bubble because it has Earth's atmosphere in this bubble. Yeah. But Batman kind of puts two and two together when he's looking outside the bubble and realizes that they're on Zarnia.
Yeah.
So Waller has built like a safe place to go to run away to if things go bad.
Yep.
And I don't know. This is kind of a wild thing. It's very. It's not unlike Waller to have contingencies, but I think Batman says it best when he says it's not like her to be sentimental like this. So this is a little bit different.
She put the mausoleum on a dead planet. There's significance there, right? Especially now after the Brainiac War stuff, there's Lobo's back to being one of the only Zarnians. So there's definitely something going on there. So it's not like her to be sentimental.
Yeah. So. Yeah, that's basically the end of the issue. All the Suicide Squad show up, and Batman and Catwoman are not in a good place. Seems like they're going to be taken captive here. I'm sure they'll figure a way out of it, but that is where the issue ends. The art's all right. I don't always love it. I think sometimes the faces can be a bit, who's this guy at the end here that I always forget?
Deadeye.
Is that just Deadeye without the mask?
Who, and which part? No, that's Gunsmith.
Gunsmith,
that was another thing that they re-added that came from Zdarsky's run earlier. It just says go back and check, Batman, whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, anyway, this dude.
Yeah.
Like the art on his face at the end just feels a bit weird to me. I don't know. Like whatever it is about him, the proportions of his head, the fact that like obviously you can just have like teeth with no detail and depending on the panel type, but this panel feels too big for him to just have a white block in his mouth.
He's got some like big old chompers.
It's like one big tooth inside his mouth.
Yeah.
So and that's consistent throughout. I mean, even the page before that, Batman has no detail on his teeth either. So it's very clearly just this artist Hawthorne is consistent with that.
It's not terrible. It's just not my liking. Like, it's a taste thing. Because the breakdowns and the action sequences all work. The tension's there through the art and the writing. I just don't really like looking a lot at the faces.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. The panel layouts are solid and tell the story well. The pacing is good. It's just I just don't like the actual art that much.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But his Bizarro looks good. I'll give him that. Like the grotesque, lines, like when he's gearing up the flame breath, it looks very monstrous on that page. So that works.
Yeah. I did not read the backup.
Oh, I did.
Oh, really? Oh, go on then.
Yeah, so it's called Absolute Power Plant. It's from Tini Howard. Art by Mariana Ignazi. And it's a Harley story, and she's in Gotham as the henchmen are realizing that there's no heroes around to stop them. So they all end up getting into a fight over who's going to take over the city. And she's trying to get control of everything and mentions like the people like Mr. Freeze are hanging low because he realizes that Waller's coming for people with superpowers and he doesn't want to be taken. So he's laying low. And then Ivy is, she's keeping her feelers out just kind of everywhere in case they need her. And so she's keeping her head low. So that leaves Harley out here trying to maintain. And she ends up hearing a lot of this like pinging, and she goes down into the sewer and finds like a bat device. And on the other side of it is Riddler. And he had set up a trap for Batman where he has the nuclear power plant under, it's going to blow up unless Batman can stop him by answering his riddles. So Harley gets there. All of the nuclear scientists are tied up, and Harley smashes the computer as soon as she gets there. And Riddler's like, what the hell? Like, this was a big part of the riddles. You need the screens. And she goes, just shut it down. And he's like, oh, I can't. I just plan the riddles. I don't plan how to stop them. That's up to Batman. And she explains, like, she goes, there's no other heroes. Like, usually if it's not Batman, it'll be one of the Bat family or maybe the Flash. Someone will come through and stop. And Riddler ends up going, oh, no. And as she's telling him, like, just enter the thing, she ends up accidentally choking him out because there's a struggle. So that leaves these nuclear scientists to solve these, typical riddles that Riddler has left out. And so, one of them's easy. It's just a fill-in for the word gamma. Another one is like a Quirtle. I think that's the thing, right? The Wordle. To fill in the answers radon. And then it ends up being a more traditional type Riddler riddle that Batman would figure out, that one of the scientists, just by looking at the words, it's about, they're looking for an exact number, but the answer ends up being 0. So they end up saving the day, and it makes Harley, not just like, it doesn't put her at being a hero, but it shows her how much Batman and the other heroes mean, because they're always doing stuff like this, right? For Harley, she just fills in, but they're constantly going through these types of schemes. So she also tells the scientist that she didn't do this just to save the world, but like if a nuclear bomb went off in Gotham, her girlfriend would kill her, right? Because of what it would do to the environment. So it ends on her meeting back up with Ivy, and Ivy's like, oh, what'd you do tonight? And she goes, and she starts going into it, and Ivy goes, I I don't even need to know. And that's where it ends. I like the art a lot. It's very, it's very flat in a way that it feels like who's that one that does Green Arrow a lot? I'm drawing a blank on his name. But it feels a lot like that, so it feels kind of classic in that way. And just Tini Howard knows how to write Harley after being on Harley forever. So just a nice little sweet backup of what's going on in Gotham while Absolute Power. So, yeah.
I mean, it is interesting to me, the idea that Riddler's actually, like, freaking out that, oh, wait, I never actually wanted the nuclear power plant to go boom.
Yeah. Because Batman's going to stop it. And I don't have to give you the Riddlers because where's the point in it? Batman's going to figure it out.
The idea that he doesn't actually want the bad things to happen, he always expects Batman to fix it, is an interesting lens to look at his antics through.
Yep.
But hey, anyway, that's we giving Batman 151.
I'll give it a 7.
That's exactly what I was going to say.
Dang, look at that.
It's a decent tie-in. So cool. Birds of Prey issue 12, legacy number 210. This is Kelly Thompson writing with Javier, Pina, and Sophie Campbell on the art.
And Gavin Goodry.
Is Gavin Goodry on this one as well?
Yes.
I guess that makes sense, because I think the last couple pages are probably Goodry, given that. Because obviously each world they go into is a different art style.
Yep.
And then also the real world's the base art style. So yeah, it makes sense. So yeah, I mean, this continues what we've been doing. Very quickly at the start of the issue, they go into a new portal after they basically decide they shouldn't beat Maya yet because they have to find Babs first. So it's like, let's go into a new world now that Vixen's kind of like disabled her for a little bit. They jump in, and Sin is tasked with leading them into a new world that's going to be pleasant, and she leads them into a world where they all turn into cartoons. So we get this very kind of I don't even know how to describe the art, to be honest.
I believe the art is called Chibi.
That's what you call this,
from
okay.
Connor.
All
yes.
right, okay. So, what there's some funny things that come from this. Barda being annoyed because cartoons are not nice; they're very violent, which is why she likes watching them. So now she's very concerned. Is funny.
I love Kelly Thompson's characterizations on a lot of characters. Barda is slowly becoming. Barda's up there with Kate Bishop at this point. We're 12 issues in with Barda, and just every time she says something, it ends up making me smile.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, if I have a critique, is that they just kind of stumble into Babs quite quickly.
Yeah.
And I did kind of feel like, oh, really? We're just going to run into her? I mean, unless this turns out to not really be Babs and there's a whole thing at play, but I don't actually think it's going to do that. I think this is just
no, because there's a lot of character not unravelings, but there's some character beats that happen because of Babs that I feel like if it's not her, they don't work.
Yeah, it would be strange. It's just very weird. Like, all of a sudden, they just kind of hear Babs or Vixen notices her.
Yeah, because Babs has been stuck in wherever she's at for the last couple, right? Like, it keeps changing. In the dinosaur world, it was a cave up on a cliff.
Yeah, it just keeps shifting to whatever world they're in.
So here, Vixen hears her with her, because she can tap back into the red, and Babs is in a skyscraper, like a cartoon one, and I was like, this is a little bit easy. What something strange is afoot.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the bit before it's quite funny because an anvil falls out the sky just randomly because it's a cartoon, but I think if they just set up that, oh, now that I've got the red back, I can maybe try and find Babs. Like, if they even just give us one page of it being like an effort to try and do it, it might have just felt better. But because it feels like, oh, we've went like 4 issues of like not being able to find Barbara Gordon, and then just, here she is. It felt a little bit like underwhelming to find her like that. So it's probably the biggest critique I've had of this entire run so far, to be honest. But like they regroup, they go to the bar, which later on leads to Barda fighting a lot of bunnies.
Yes, because there's no alcohol because it's a cartoon. So, it's just making Barda upset, and she's drinking too many root beer. Too much root beer.
So the big thing here is that they're basically discussing like how they get out of this place, and like, can they even like deal with Maya without like trapping themselves in here. Since this is a place of her creation, what happens if she dies, for example? And it's like, well, what if Sela, Maya's sister that's with them, what if she kills her? Then the power might transfer to her. And it's Barbara that suggests that. And of course, keep in mind, the reason why these sisters all hate Barbara Gordon is because apparently in the future, Barbara Gordon's going to be responsible for the death of, was it their mother, I want to say?
Yep, their mother.
And yeah, so this kind of makes Sela feel weird. So probably the best scene in the issue for me is Cass going out to like just kind of bond and try and like ask her questions about her sisters. And because Cassie's whole story has always been about how she kind of found a new family and found kind of happiness there. So her going to talk to someone who's lost their family just kind of made a lot of sense to me.
Well, there's that, and she takes the approach of, you only told us how your sisters died. Tell me about your sisters.
Yeah, exactly. So
and so it was a very sweet moment that, you know, we've seen Cass kind of warm up, you know, as, you know, she's gone from just, you know, small bat, right, to this person that she has a lot of like affectionate moments.
Yeah, and she's even the one that comes up with a plan for them to enact. And it's basically they want to like draw out Maya to get a lot of stuff going. And you know, Barda's like, oh, I appreciate you giving me such a lovely part of your clever plan, Small Bat. Again, funny thing. So they basically just start causing chaos in the bar to like make a lot of noise and attention. Something they've established in the issue is that the portals always seem to happen when they draw Maya's attention because a lot of stuff's going on.
Yeah, so it's like a lot of, there's like energy flux where it goes from nothing to the birds causing all this chaos. So we get Barda yelling, "Reign terror, sow chaos. All who behold Barda shall kneel before her greatness and be glad in it." And again, just everything she says is hilarious.
Yeah, some bunnies try to drop a piano on Barda's head, but Canary deals with that with her scream. It's a whole thing. So
there's a ninja bunny in there.
Yeah.
Like there's just a swarm of bunnies.
I will say I did like that when Maya shows up in the cartoon world, she's not drawn in the same art style. She's drawn like normal to sell that she's kind of outside of this. But their plan, it turns out to be, is that Megira is going to come out of Sin and sort of go toe-to-toe with Maya and sort of get a hold of her. So they do a whole thing where they take her into a portal. Because I'm assuming what they're doing here is when they jump into a portal with her sort of held captive, is that they're going to try and take her to a world, presumably with her sisters all alive, so they can sort of try and like bring her humanity back and like sort of remind her of like the happy times or something. I assume that's what they're doing, and that's like the world that they're trying to conjure up as they jump through the portal. Because they make a whole point of this, that Sela is going to be the one who conjures up the new world. She's going to go in first and make it be something. And Cass holds her hand to give her the confidence to make it a nicer world, because she's worried she's going to make it like every time I make a world, it's dark and depressing and it's messed up. So yeah, I mean, it's an interesting thing. You don't get the payoff here yet, though. This is a tease for next time. Not that it's the end of the book, though, because we come back to the real world, and if you remember last time, Constantine walked off saying that he's going to get some help, and he comes back with Xanthe, the character from
Spirit World.
I did not, you know what, I knew who this was. I could not for the life of me remember the name of the book. But
Dude, I remember because that was the Cass, Constantine, and Xanthe book.
That's right. I did not expect it to be called back upon like this. Interestingly, Xanthe's whole connection to the afterlife and the afterworld or whatever, like, they put their hand in the portal and basically say, are you sure they're not already dead? Now, I'm pretty confident they're not, but clearly the vibes that they're getting from this portal is clearly reminding them of what the afterworld feels like, and therefore is causing some tension and confusion.
So I'm wondering if, because of all the sisters' powers and Maya and all that type of stuff, I'm wondering if it's some sort of limbo, and that's why, because they're not quite alive, but they're not quite dead, right? Because they're constantly shifting around. So, but yeah, very interesting. Another thing we kind of skimmed over was the Megira part, where Megira says that she felt Maya, that she's been wanting a chat because she's the one that set things in motion in Themyscira. So I thought that was pretty interesting.
Oh yeah, we knew that though. That's just.
We did?
Well, yeah, because the entire thing in Themyscira was because what's her face, Meridian came from the future.
That's right, because of maps.
Yeah, so the motivation the whole time was because someone was trying to kill Babs, so it all does track back to her.
That's right. I forgot about the maps aspect of Themyscira.
Yeah.
I got so focused on sin in that part of the story, and that's why they were going there. I forgot about the time traveling aspect.
No, I was also excited that she brought that up and said, hey, we're having a word about this because you actually kind of affected a lot of this. Yeah. But it wasn't new information to us.
Got you. Well, I treated it like it was, and it was oh man. So that was a nice
what a twist! I did not see that coming.
No. But yeah, Xanthe showing up. Nice surprise. I like that. But yeah, Birds of Prey still a fun read.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a sensible connection given like what they're currently doing in the book to have that character show up. The issue is pretty good. Obviously the chibi art isn't really to my taste. I understand why they did it, but it does mean that it's the least interesting to look at book out of this entire run for me. And the biggest complaint I'd have is the quick and easy finding of Barbara just felt like, I guess like there wasn't really a motivation to find her right now. It just happens because it's time to find her, and that's a bit of an issue for me. But still, a lot of the little characterization moments are good. A lot of great funny lines as per usual, and I'm intrigued by what they're setting up getting into this this final part. This is part 4 or 5, so next time's the finale of the arc. So to see where we go. So and the art changes, of course, but the art changes all make sense, and they have done all arc. They've built the entire story around different artists doing different parts. So yeah, all right, what are you giving Birds of Prey?
I'm gonna give this a the chibi art was kind of, although I did like it, I'm gonna give this a solid 8.
Yeah, I'm going to go 7 on this one, which is probably the lowest I've rated a Birds of Prey issue since Thompson started writing the book. So I don't want to sound too harsh, but I do think the Babs thing is a little bit too quick and easy, and then not being in love with the art style also just kind of adds on to it.
Yeah, there are parts that I really liked about the chibi art style, the stuff that they do with Cass and all of that, and Barda, of course. But yeah, it's definitely not my taste. However, I got over it with a lot of the funny dialogue. So
yeah, it's the sort of thing where like I would much rather it look like a Looney Tunes cartoon than this for the joke of them being in a cartoon world.
True,
but that's a taste thing more than anything else. Like there's a lot of good things still in this issue. It's just it has maybe the most problems of any of the Birds of Prey issues that we've had. So hence my slightly lower score than normal. All right, cool. Shazam, issue 14. Josie Campbell writing with Emanuela Lupacchino on the art. All right. Do I take a victory lap to start with, Matt?
You can. I immediately thought of that when I was reading this last night.
Joe, I completely forgot about it. I started the issue, and obviously it starts with Freddy next to the underground king dude. And then it gets to the Dudley stuff, and I immediately remembered the whole debate about what was going on with Dudley last issue. And literally he says, I've got superpowers now, and she's like, what do you mean you got superpowers? And then he says, I've got a crowbar. And I went, I was right. He doesn't have the Shazam powers.
When she said, when he says he has superpowers, I went, haha, I got him. And I was getting ready to message you and go, hey,
I bet you were.
Let me know when you reach Shazam. And then when you got to the crowbar, my reaction is the same as Hoppy's here, where I went, So, however, despite being wrong, it does not affect the outcome of what happens here, because I prefer Uncle Dudley not having superpowers, because it adds for some funny stuff. Oh yeah,
him basically just saying he was inspired by Mary, so he put on the logo and started protecting homeless people in the subway system with a crowbar is... I mean, it's the funny thing where he seems like such a light, sort of happy character who's doing a good deed, but threatening people and possibly hitting them with a crowbar is very violent and dark, so it's really funny.
He's an old maniac. Like, that's what he's doing. He's living in the subway tunnels.
He's a psychopath.
Yeah, hitting people in defense of people that, could be homeless. We don't know. But yes, Uncle Dudley, keep it up, man. We need more people like him in this world.
there's a whole thing here where Billy and Mary are trying hard to pretend that they don't know each other, and there's a great bit where she's like, "Oh, we have to have a private conversation," and he's basically saying, "No, maybe we shouldn't have a talk," and she just kind of drags him off, and he's like, "Okay, I'll talk now." And honestly, the funniest line in this whole book for me was just the all bolded bubble from Mary saying, "Good decision, stranger." Just because like she's still keeping up the act, but she's obviously mad at him like a big sister. Plus, the way I said that there made me think of the merchant from Resident Evil 4. Good decision, stranger. Anyway, so yeah, so you get the whole thing with Freddy down with the underground
the submen.
The submen, that's what they're called. And he's pretending to be the king of the up top world to try and like buy himself some time. And the king of the submen, Kang, I think his name is just kind of going along with it. It's a whole thing. He's saying, "Oh, we used to rule up top as gods, but then man forced us down here." And he's like, "Do you have any idea what it's like to like have the sky and sun at your disposal, then lose it?" And then of course you get a page with Freddy in his blue Shazam outfit flying through the air, and he's like, "Yeah, I know exactly what that feels like, actually." So Freddy's doing his best to kind of stall. There's an interesting thing here though, because Freddy has the narration in this issue. For at least for his pages. In fact, he's still the only narration actually. He just doesn't narrate on the other scenes.
Right.
But there's this sort of like alternate narration every so often. It's like his doubts coming in. So you'll say something, and then there'll be this second different color narration box. It's basically saying, "Oh, you're wrong, Freddy. You're a loser," or something to that effect.
Yeah.
Something that contradicts what you
Bitter
just said.
and cold, the pain lingers on.
Yeah.
Real quick too, we get a little bit of his backstory. Hasn't really been updated since the Johns, right? And then we get the thing here that he has family out there. They just didn't want him because he had a crutch, and they call him a cripple. And that takes Freddy into, I already love him in this book, the whole Shazam, type thing. But here, adding that layer and how much the family means to him, and not just the superpowers of Billy and Mary and the Foster family too, it really ups those stakes a little bit, because he wants to be wanted. And that's kind of the undercurrent here is he's just going to, do what he does and kind of be a con man to the submen until he can figure out a way out.
Well, I mean, the whole thing with him pretending to be a king is his narration constantly points out that he's trying to, like, feel like he's indispensable, that he feels needed. But then the backstory, a little flashback moment, kind of reveals that he's actually self-conscious about feeling wanted, about feeling needed. So it kind of ties into how he's actually feeling. So the big end of this, when the submen are about to kill him, is he steps on this little like sort of graffiti that's a portal. Because one of the questions that came up is like, okay, how are you guys actually, like, you've been trapped down here from a child of lightning, which we assume is a previous champion of Shazam.
Yeah.
Right? How are you getting out now? And it turns out that graffiti like person, that girl that we saw back in the first part of this arc, she's actually this graffiti artist, and she's not a hero. She wasn't helping Freddy before. She's the one that's been painting these portals to let them out. Now her motivation, we don't really know yet, but I do actually really like this power set, because when he comes back into the subway through the portal and she's standing there and she's like and she's like, monologuing about like what she's doing or whatever, she talks about knowing how to make a ghost. It clearly shows like what her power set kind of is. She basically like makes like a graffiti painting of a knife on the wall come out of the wall and come to life. And I'm like, that's a really interesting power set, because it seems really powerful, and it is, but she has to have time to paint the thing she wants first. So I like the idea that in the subway she's been graffitiing a bunch of useful things in the wall for the occasion that she might need them. Yeah. And this is like her pulling the knife out of the... I don't know, there's something really fun about that as a concept to me.
No, I like that. And then she's very ominous too, because she's like, "I know how to make a ghost. Let me show you." And that's where she plucks the knife out of the wall. I'm like, oh no, Freddy, get out of there, bud.
Yeah, that crutch is going to be the least of your concerns in a minute, I think. So, yeah, and then all the submen start attacking Mary, and Billy's like, "I can't transform," The captain's inside, sort of looking at the mirror, the portal to the outside world, and saying, "Billy, come on, you have to let me help, you have to like turn into me, you have to give me control." and he's basically screaming, "Help! Help me save them all!" And we see like everyone's in trouble. Billy and Dudley are in trouble. Mary's struggling to fight all these monsters. Freddy's dealing with the graffiti girl trying to kill him
Mm-hmm.
in portals. And just as this happens, there's a random toddler on the train track, which Billy goes to try and help. And I can't help but notice that the toddler's wearing like a white robe with like it looks very godly. It's the sort of thing that you'd expect someone hanging around on like Olympus to be wearing.
Yeah, he says a kid in a toga just ran through here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Dudley's like, "Are you seeing this kid now?" As if Billy's having hallucinations.
Yeah.
Although his crowbar does come in handy for breaking down some boards, so he's
So you're supposed to use it, not wielding it in defense. You're supposed to pry boards apart.
Dudley is very happy with his crowbar. He loves that thing. Let's not take it away from him, unless he hurts someone, and maybe then we should.
Yes.
Ah, dear. Anyway, so yeah, Billy, like, there's like a magical door behind the boards, and they go into like a field, and the kid's like, "How do you not know it's the end of the world?" And the final page is like them running from one of these submen who looks really, really big, and the kid just says, "The time of monsters is here." So that's your cliffhanger. Honestly, fun issue. I think this book has been just consistently entertaining. Even once we transitioned from Waid to Campbell, I think Campbell's arcs here. Well, I say arc and a half, because you kind of come in halfway through an arc. It's been very solid still been very funny and charming, and I've been really digging having a good focus on some of these characters, and it really does feel like Mary, Billy, and Freddy are getting the lion's share of the focus right now, but that's not to say that the others haven't had a bit of time before, but really digging it. Yeah, and the art's good as well.
The art's really good, and also I like that it's picking up on threads that she had in her Mary book.
Yep.
Right. So we got Uncle Dudley, we got Hoppy, we have others. So it feels more seamless, I think, than when Waid was writing it, just because she's using her threads to also keep telling stories. So it just feels like Shazam's a very coherent corner of the DCU right now.
Yeah. It's a sort of thing where, we thought John's been on this book was the perfect thing, and it ended up being kind of a mixed bag, all things considered. This has definitely been a much better book this time round, but and all of it's, from issue 1 with Waid all till now.
Yeah.
So
I agree.
Good stuff. All right, what are you rating Shazam?
It's 7.5.
Yeah, I'm happy to give this the 8. I had a really good time. I think the art's solid. I think it gives a good bit of depth to Freddy, and also Mary and Billy's bickering and her like telling him off for running away. All good stuff. So very good. All right. The Boy Wonder, issue 4, Juni Ba on, all the things, basically. So, this is the penultimate issue, I believe. I think this is 5 issues total. And it's an interesting, in that, the past 3 issues were all sort of focused one by one on a different Robin, right? So it was like his relationship with Dick, his relationship with Jason, and Tim. This issue, of course, we've run out of Robins, unless you're going to start doing the Batgirls. And interestingly, at the end, Babs is there in the group shot of the family that he's going back to. So, I mean, maybe they're going to do something with that. I don't know. But next one's the finale, so I'm not expecting it. So here's the question, like, I assume Damien was the one that was kidnapped at the, in these opening bits. But is it just me, or does that not look like Damien when the hood comes off?
It's not.
Yeah.
It is. This is someone telling Damien's story. Yeah. Someone that's close to Damien. So, if I had to bet, right?
Yes.
We learned in the first issue that Babs was with child.
You think this is okay? You think this is Dick and Babs' kid?
Yep, and that he's gonna show up as Robin. Like I feel like they're playing with the Batman Damien type stuff, but I think at the end of this he's going to feel like being Robin is more important, right? Being himself is more important than being the son of the Bat or the son of the Demon, right? And I feel like he's going to show up as a Robin, but we're going to see a grown Damien come and rescue this girl.
It's a wild thing to think that if Babs and Dick have a kid, that Damien then becomes like the Nightwing to that child. It's a really funny, you know, the big brother type character. Anyway, so yeah, it does this sort of thing where it's like, oh, here's the story of Talia in this like story, and how she was made to be like a servant of her father and devote her life to like helping him achieve his goals. And she wanted to be his heir, but she was never going to be his heir because he wanted a boy to be his heir. So, you know, one day she met the Batman, and he was this perfect specimen to be the heir to the throne, but Batman, of course, refused, but did knock her up. So, you know, we get basically this book's version of those events over the first several pages. Yeah. So, and it's nice enough. It does its job.
Well, and Juni Ba does this thing too, where it does feel like a fairy tale because the art matches. There's a kind of, you know, fadedness to the art.
Yeah, and there's like borders on some of the text because it's not even like text panels. It's like full. Well, it is text panels. It's not text like it's like full panels are just blank with text in them telling the story. So it's more like a picture book than it is a.
Yeah, picture book. That's the perfect way, and we get that, and you know, and we get that the rock demon had told her, you know, that she's gonna go through these trials and to keep this cup, and each of her things that she goes through with Roz or Batman and Damian are a piece of that trial. So we kind of they use that piece of the story to inform what happens later in this issue.
Yeah, I think that stuff was good. I was relieved though when it wasn't the whole issue. Like when it actually got to like, oh, we're picking up where the last story left off after the first 4 or 5 pages. I was like, okay, good, because that would have been too much. If the entire issue was just retelling the story of how, like, you know, Talia gave birth to him and like his early years, I'd be like, okay, we're kind of just retreading the same old ground again. Yeah,
well, and because it's kind of that faded kind of art, right, that makes it feel older. When you turn the page and we're in the Lazarus Pit room and everything's green, it feels like we've entered back into the real world from where we were.
Because the last issue ended with Damian sort of like realizing Raz was behind all this, and they went through the portal to wherever Nana Parbat, maybe, I don't know, wherever Raz's palace is in this universe. So yeah, like, you know, Raz is like, fight me, boy. You know, you've betrayed us. You've been with the Bat and all that. And Damien's like, I don't kill anymore, but he does pick up the sword to defend himself, and the action does look really good actually. Once once those swords clash, it's very simplistic, but like Juni Ba is really good with the layouts, really knows how to make all this thing. And Raz always being in complete silhouette with his head and just having the big sort of horns looking, you know, demon look, very good. But yeah, Damien's like begging his mother to like help at one point, and she's just kind of like quietly ignoring him, and it's kind of sad and tragic and all the rest of it. And Raz goes full demon and the head gets big and all the rest of it, saying he's disappointed in Damien. It's a whole big thing. So the big thing in this issue though, other than just the setting up that all these bodies that have been getting stolen are to help fuel the Lazarus Pit. And that Raz's plan is to actually just take Damien's body and possess him effectively, so that he now has a new, you know, because after all these centuries being resurrected, his body's finally starting to age and not really take to it, but it's affecting his mind. So
yeah, I always love that aspect of the Lazarus Pit lore, that, you know, the more you use it, the more unhinged you become. You know, and it really sets up a crazier Roz where he kind of started with noble intentions to preserve the earth, and now he's just like, well, we need a mass genocide to preserve the earth.
Well, that's the thing. Talia like bought into like his goals, but here when he reveals what his plan is for Damien, she's like, wait a minute, this isn't the plan. Like the plan is more important than any individual, but now it seems like Raz cares more about himself, despite what he's saying. This is more about his own like power persevering and him sticking around. But Damien effectively falls into the pit, and they kind of treat this like a... I don't know. I don't even know what you call this, but he treats this pit like a magical subconscious place where he starts hearing this voice, and we don't know who's talking to him for a lot of these pages, where it's in pitch black, and you've just got this text appearing. And it later turns out to be the guy who Damien killed, you know, the thug that whose head he cut off. And this is all playing out, and he's seeing more of his past, and Talia comes in to help him survive against the assassins that come down to try and kill him. So it's all taking place kind of in the Lazarus water, I guess, is what they're going for here. And it's like he has this near-death experience where he's able to communicate with the person he killed, who's chastising him, who's criticizing things. Remember what you did, remember, what all this is. And then Damien runs into his nanny, who was killed to cover up that Damien broke a vase that belonged to Ra's al Ghul.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, you still feel guilt over this, but you shouldn't. He served his purpose. But you find out the nanny was kind of like happy to sacrifice himself because he hoped that one day Damien would get away from this life and he'd become something better. And it's like, oh, that's kind of like what's happened to an extent. I mean, obviously he's still in this place where he's like, oh, I was supposed to be the son of the demon or the grandchild of the demon, and then I was supposed to be the son of the bat, and maybe he just tried to prove himself to Batman because he failed in his task to prove himself to Raz. Is he just replacing one father figure to look up to and prove himself to than the other? And a big part of this story is ultimately the end here when the voice reveals itself to be the guy whose head he cut off. And the art here is really good actually because he's holding his own head, so it's got a very kind of otherworldly, sort of feel to it. It's good.
And we get a lot of the motif. The people that are constantly at odds with Damien have these very angled, right? So the Rock had the chin kind of like the beard angle too, like this guy has. Roz and Talia both kind of have the horns, right? So there's very angular beings, and so when it reveals itself here, and the guy's holding his own head, it's a stark visual.
Yeah, it's very pulpy because of the art style, but it does work really well. And basically, it's like, hey, I bet you don't even know my name. And Damien's like, yeah, I do. And he names him. He even says, I looked you up. You've got 2 kids. This is where you live. This is what you were. You were trying to get out of the life of crime to build a better life for your kids. And he's like, yeah, I've thought about you every single day. But he's like, I'm sorry, I really am. But there's a little moment here where he like thinks about stuff the other Robins told him, and they're all like, color coded. So the Nightwing quote's in blue, the Jason one's in red, and the Tim one's in orange, which isn't really his color, but we've already used blue and red, so what else we got to use?
Yeah, why not orange for Red Robin?
Yeah, so yeah, like basically says, hey, please let me go and like protect more people. Let me go and like give me the chance to keep caring and keep redefining what I am, and I'm not just what Raz wanted me to be or what even Batman wants me to be. And he agrees. He says, I will be watching. You get a big full page with that big text saying, I will be watching, as an ominous voice saying, and to me what I was reading from this is that, yeah, this memory and guilt of what he's done to this man is always going to be with him. It's never going away. It's always going to be lingering. Yeah,
this is Damien's conscience.
Yeah. And Talia gets pissed because, Damien says, hey, you left me. And she's like, you sound a lot like your father. And he's like, well, it was bound to happen because you're the one that dumped me with him.
Yeah, because you left me. She goes, I'm here now. Not the point. You sound a lot like your father. It's bound to happen. You gave me up to him. And then she has nothing to say.
Yeah. I mean, the last couple pages are really good and are the real strength of this issue, because it's basically as Damien's like going away over to like, the exit, and he sees like an image of the family that he's going back to, and it's the 3 Robins plus Babs.
Yeah.
Like basically Talia kind of it's a third person narration, but the third person narration basically says that she, she's not really sure about a lot of this or how to feel about like what Damien is or what he's doing, but she also feels something she never thought she would feel or didn't know she could feel, which is a sense of pride. Like the way he just stood up to her and the way that he's standing up to Raz and even Batman and trying to be his own thing is making her feel proud as a mother, and it's something she couldn't predict coming. And it's a really interesting little thing, and this like final feeling that it describes in the last page is that she's even hoping that he'll feel proud one day too, like he deserves to feel pride, and it's something that up until now she's never felt, because she's so been obsessed with just doing something for Raz. She's been a puppet for his games and never her own person, and she's kind of in too deep to really just change that now. Like she's too tied to it, but Damien's breaking out of it, and maybe she didn't realize she wanted that for him, but now that it's happening, she's like, oh, I'm actually kind of proud that he's doing this.
She sees the potential there, right? Yeah. She never got to be her own person, right? She had to be the hand of the demon, right? And now Damien is broken from that cycle, and now she's proud of him for it. You know,
Yeah.
because he gets to be everything that she couldn't be.
It's so funny because the first few pages of this are fine, but I was like, oh, this is probably my least favorite issue just because of what it is. And then by the end, I'm like, oh no, this may have hit the hardest, like, emotional beat of the whole thing.
It's very much hero's journey type stuff too, right? Where he's here, he's in the belly of the beast, and he works his way back out stronger than he was before, right? And now he has this self-actualization where, you know, he wants to be a Robin. That's what that final page tells me here, right? Because that's to, you know, minus Babs or whatever. That's where he's going towards.
Yeah, I think it's interesting he doesn't see Batman. He sees all of the other characters. And I don't think it's because he's, you know, like, he's not going to have a relationship with Batman, but I think it says something to me that all of those Bat family members didn't join and start doing what they do for Batman. They all had their own reasons for doing what they do that, you know, obviously connects them to Batman, but it wasn't like to serve his purpose. They were inspired by him, perhaps, or they were taken under his wing because they were lost and like needed guidance of some kind. But it's interesting that Damien sees like inspiration in them for what they are and what they've become in different ways. So yeah, by the end of this issue, I thought it was hitting some really just some home run little beats for Damien that, you know, I think like I feel like Juni Ba went into this with a really strong sense of like what he wanted to say about Damien as a character.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's very good.
And it's kind of doing the early Morrison stuff where we get Morrison dropping off Damien in Batman and Son, and then we get the plot points from Resurrection of Ra's al Ghul, which were, you know, that he saw Damien as is, you know, that's a body that he can inhibit and then live even longer. Yeah, as the vessel. There you go. And so, and Juni Ba condensed those two stories into this, you know, 5-issue. And it works out really well. So
yeah, the emphasis on his relationship with the other Robins though is really interesting, and it paints it in a very different light compared to that.
I think that's the key. Yeah, that's the key here is that he's working to be something that's not Bat or Demon, right? He's working, and that really resonates with the, you know, him wanting to be his own person in the way that his mother couldn't be. So. Yeah, just everything's very well thought out. And for something that feels sometimes like a kid's book, it has some very not mature themes in that they're for the, you know, for adults, but there's stuff that you wouldn't expect in a children's book.
Yeah, because it's not really a kid's book, but the art kind of deceives you into maybe assuming it is, just because it is a very kid style sort of art style. But yeah. No, it's been a really nice surprise, this book. It's a very easy read as well. Like, you know, it flows wonderfully. You know, the art's not always 100% to my taste, depending on what it's doing, but anytime like it's doing action, or anytime it's just doing Damien or Raz, where it's doing the silhouettes or like the faces in shadow or anything like that, like it really nails that stuff in the mood during that. So really good.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, what are you rating The Boy Wonder?
8.5.
Yeah, I mean, I'm tempted to even go to the 9, to be honest. I think I'm going to say 8.5 as well. Maybe just those first few pages, just dipping me down below the 9. But it's honestly, by the end, it really felt like it was hitting some really high notes for me. So there you go. That'll take us out to the final part of the show, where we pick our favorite stuff of the week, favorite panel / what.
I'm not going to cover Blue Beetle.
Oh, I didn't know you'd read that. Oh, yeah.
I thought I heard you say it at the beginning of the show.
I did not say it at the beginning of the show. I did not have it on my list.
Well, we're going to go on Audible, and I'm going to cover it since it's the last issue.
By all means. Is it the last? Okay, by all means.
Is.
Yeah, so you can tell them what number it is and who's on it.
Yeah, so Blue Beetle 11 by Josh Trujillo and art by Adrián Gutiérrez. And yeah, so this is a culmination of everything that's happened over the last 10 issues, and it starts with the Horizon questioning if they should stay in Palmera City. So the council talks to Uli, who's the one, you know, Horizon girl that's been close with Jaime. Her dad sits on the council. They give her the task of, you know, if you can prove to us why we should stay, we'll stay. If not, you know, all the things that have happened, we're going to go find somewhere else to be. And so this gives us a device to follow Jaime around on a day where his parents and sisters surprise him to a visit to Palmera City. and he is trying to entertain them, but he's also, trying to meet back up with the Horizon to figure out what they're going to do. And so they go to the zoo, and he's, trying to tell his dad that, like, it's been the hardest year of his life, but, and he looks at this tiger, and he feels like, he hasn't told his dad what had happened with the blood beetle or the blood scarab. And he's like, yeah, that thing's a killer. It needs to be out in the open. It needs to not be, in here into the zoo. And his sister's like, oh no, like, look, it's beautiful. And, it's not that scary. And Jaime's just sitting there, like, not knowing how to feel because he feels like they're talking about him. And so eventually he kind of talks around it with his parents, and his dad is like, look, at the end of the day, he tells him, like, when I first met your mom, we were dating, and I wasn't the best boyfriend, but she turned around and she gave me a second chance, and I've made it up to her every day since. So, whatever you're going through, just a little bit of communication, whether that's between your friends or, your scarab or whatever. And he goes, geez, Dad, how'd you know? And he's like, well, it's a dad's job. Right. And so, while Jaime's taking his parents out, Victoria Cord is addressing the board with Ted, but Ted's in his full Blue Beetle uniform. And they decide that because of her little incident with the, what was that robot called, with the pinnacle, that they're stripping her from the board. And as they're doing this, Ted's like, you did this while I was gone, and I'm thankful for it, but you've taken this company in a direction that I can't abide by. And as she goes to turn to leave, detectives are there, and that they're arresting her for the attempted murder of Brenda, who's one of Jaime's friends that worked for her. So when the pinnacle stuff had happened, Brenda had got caught up in all of that, and the police are using that as a means to bring her in, and Victoria starts, to push back, but Ted's like, no, you've taken this company in a bad direction. You have to face consequences. And that makes Victoria completely lose it. And, she goes, you know what? If these are my consequences, so be it. But I was right about everything, about the pinnacle, the Horizon, the scarab, everything. I'm never going to give up fighting for humanity, Ted. And it's very ominous with the way that they have her go. So Brenda is having to essentially, she's in physical therapy because of the attack by Pinnacle. She's having a hard time walking. So Zamara, who was the gold beetle, Dynastis and Paco have started dating, and he's going to move down to El Salvador, where she's from, which Brenda's not too happy about, but as they're having this conversation and Brenda's feeling a little bit sad, this character pops up who I'm not that familiar with. Looks like a scarab, but I don't think is. It looks like a praying mantis, and Dynastis goes into fight mode and goes and brings this praying mantis down. It's a really fun action sequence because the colors here. So Dynastis is gold and black, but the praying mantis is teal and red, and so when they start fighting, there's a lot of interchange in the background colors. So a lot of oranges when it's Dynasties, and then a lot of purples and greens for praying mantis. So it looks real good, but Dynasties ends up winning. The next part goes to Tracy 13 at the Oblivion Bar, who was dating him as Jaime. And Madame Xanadu says, the trials for Jaime have just begun. And we get this really cool, futurescape that kind of reminds me of, you remember in the Sinestro Core War, where they seeded the War of Light, and we saw all the different forms of we see Jaime leading these other beetles into battle against what looked like the Reach. So it looks like the Reach are leading an invasion. And they have their own beetles, right? But it's Natita, who is the green one. They have the blood scarab. They have Dynasties, who looks like she's might be pregnant. Uli's there, Starfire, and then Ted in the Beetle. So it's like all the characters that we've gotten to know leading up against the Reach. And Madame Xanadu tells Tracy 13, like, we have to bring the Blood Scare back. They can't do it without him. I've looked into the future. And Tracy's like, I don't know if this is a good idea because, Jaime killed him and that might not work out well. And yeah, the issue ends with that conversation that I already jumped to between Jaime and his dad. And Uli shows up and lets Jaime know that the Reach are going to stay. It's because of him. And she gives him a kiss, which completely shocks him. And he's like, you know what? You always keep me on my toes. Thank you for that. And he looks at the time, realizes that he's late, and he flies down to meet up with Brenda and Paco. And he ends up at Palmyra State University, and he's decided to enroll. He's going to stay, work at his aunt's diner still, and start school. So we went from graduation day to now Jaime enrolled in college. And it ends with this really nice page of basically Blue Beetle, that he's part of, when you're Blue Beetle, you're part of a family, part of a legacy, and this is only the beginning. And it's got him doing like this fun little pose with Palmyra City behind him. And yeah, so I hope there's more of this because I'm enjoying Trujillo on the character, and it's a shame that this is like the last issue. I'm gonna double check to make sure. Yeah, there's no more solicited. So, yeah, a lot of affection for this. A nice send off. It feels a little bit rushed in parts, but Trujillo always got the character interactions down. But yeah, so I'm gonna give this an 8. Oh, and Pete's away from the computer, so I can now say anything I want. And I mean, his headphones are still in, so.
Oh yeah, I'm back.
He's back.
I got 3 cats, all right.
Yeah, I was wondering if that was going on or if there was an emergency.
No, just one cat once in, once back out again, then the second cat once out. It just, I think
pure chaos.
You can see me rolling my eyes before the last trip. Yeah. Anyway,
gotcha.
Did you finish? I assume. Well, I was.
Yes, I did. 8.5.
Right. Okay.
No, 8.
Oh, all right.
I can't remember. Roll the tape back. I liked it. All right.
It's been like 30 seconds, but all right.
Yeah.
All right, that'll take us out of the last part of the show where we pick our favorite stuff of the week, panel/moment, cover our top 5 books. You know the drill. All right. Yes. Panel/moment of the week, Matt. Go.
All right, so I just brought up Blue Beetle. There's a couple in there. I do like the final page. That's really nice. Boy Wonder had a bunch. A lot of the stuff with the Roz and the Shadows and Damien. We like Juni Ba's art there. But I'm going to take mine from Birds of Prey, and it's going to be one of the chibi scenes, but it's when Barda is sowing chaos and trying to attract the portal. It gave me such a laugh, and I love Kelly Thompson's Barda, so that's going to be mine.
Yeah, there's the ending of Boy Wonder is definitely a contender. But I think it has to be the ladies and gentlemen, can I have your intention from Absolute Power. It's just such a hell yeah moment if you're a Dick Grayson fan. So yeah, that's my pick. Cover of the week, because you just reviewed Blue Beetle, I actually had a chance to look. Not a lot that stuck out to me, but I will say there's a variant for Absolute Power, which is just Batman standing in the fortress by Lucio Perillo. It just looks quite nice. But to be boring, pick another back cover. Variant by Gabriel Dell'Otto for Batman, which is the 85th anniversary variant, which has got the 2000s Batman logo on it. It's really nice, just Batman on a gargoyle in the rain. It's nothing revolutionary in terms of ideas. It just looks really nice and stuck out to me a bit more than a lot of the other ones. So yeah, Batman's 85 coming up, man.
Old man.
He is old. He is. Yes. Yep. So, Waid, what's your cover of the week?
All right. So, I'm a big fan of the regular Boy Wonder cover because it's got Talia holding Damien, and they have those, kind of demon like indicators on them, and there's a lot of greens and black, and that looks really well. The Absolute Power, there's a what was it? Where did it go? It's a Ben Olivier. It was the foil variant. I just like the way that the composition is. It's got an Amazo in red. I think that's Superman in blue. You can tell that he's drawing power from Superman because there's blue going from Superman to the Amazo. That looks really nice. But my cover is going to be from Blue Beetle, and it's the Jacoby Salcedo variant, and it's just Jaime on a billboard with this big bright blue sky behind him, and then the billboard's been graffitied with the name of the book. And some of the creators. It just looks really nice, and it matches the vibe of the book. That's mine.
All right. Cool. All right. Art of the week.
It's Dan Mora.
Yeah, it probably is for me. I mean, Juni Ba, while not always completely to my taste, is very good and worth mentioning. But Lupacchino's solid on Shazam, but it's Dan Mora. Yeah, it is. Yeah, I just can't really argue for anyone else this week. All right, so top 5 books, Matt.
Right. All right. Number 1 is going to be Boy Wonder. 2 is Blue Beetle. 3 is Birds of Prey. 4 is Absolute Power. And 5 is Shazam.
Yeah. So yeah, for me, number 1 is Boy Wonder. 2 is Shazam. 3 is Absolute Power. 4 is probably still Birds of Prey, and 5 Batman. But I mean, they were a lot closer than they usually would be. Birds of Prey was a little bit less than normal, and Batman is significantly better than it has been under Zdarsky. So yeah, there you go. So I'll now tell you what's coming next week from DC Comics. We have Action Comics 1068, Green Lantern 14, Batman and Robin 12, Task Force 7-4, or Absolute Power Task Force 7-4. We got Batman Gotham by Gaslight, The Kryptonian Age issue 3. I'm looking forward to talking to you about that, actually, because there's some interesting developments in issue 2.
I have to catch up on 2. I have it. I still have to read it.
Oh, you need to.
By tomorrow, I'll have it read.
I'll just say, we had some talks about some armor looking more Thanagarian and Kryptonian, and is there a Green Lantern ring involved on top of everything? Let's just say there's more other things to throw in the fire with that. We got from DC Vault, Death in the Family, Robin Lives issue 2, Gotham City Sirens issue 2. Remember, that's like a weekly 1 month event thing. We got DC versus Vampires World War V issue 1. And it's actually weird how since the original miniseries came out, because of Gen V, the Boys spin-off, I see World War V and I just think of the Boys now. But yeah, so we got that starting. We'll see how that is. We got Outsiders issue 10. And then we got Justice Runs in the Family, Bruce Wayne Adventures 1-5. We got Primer, Clashing Colors. We got House of Secrets 92, Facsimile edition that is. And then, yeah, that's pretty much it. So, decent enough looking week. I've also definitely got a Patreon book to get to, so I'll be doing that next week as well. But definitely, I mean, Green Lantern would be my number 1 excited book, and I'm still expecting to enjoy it because I enjoyed the last issue. But it's in tie-in mode right now as opposed to just full-on Adam's Run mode. So we'll see. So Gotham by Gaslight is probably my most anticipated as of right now. But yeah,
I'm trying to remember. I did read what happened in the last one. Let me see. Oh yes, I did. I did read that one when I was on vacation. So
that one. What?
I have to refresh. Green Lantern.
Okay, yeah.
Because I was like, what happened in the last issue? And I just looked at the cover and got refreshed. So.
Okay, yeah. So yeah, that's what's coming next week. So thank you very much for joining us, everyone. You can, of course, like and subscribe, and you can let us know what you thought of the books in the comments. And of course, if you want to go above and beyond and support the content and help keep it coming, you can do that over at patreon.com/MailFuzzTV. It goes a long way to helping make sure the show keeps coming, as well as all the other content from MailFuzz Movies and MailFuzz TV, of which there's bonuses and stuff you'll get if you're interested in any of that. As for promoting any of that stuff, Collector's Cut this weekend started Rocky season, so Rocky 1's review is out this weekend. with the sequels to follow week by week. So if that's of interest, then
you going all the way up through Creed?
No, just in the Rocky movies
Okay.
for this batch, and then we'll do the Creed movies when the next Creed movie's coming out.
Okay.
So that is the plan.
Gotcha.
But yeah, that is the show, everyone. Thank you very much for joining us. We do appreciate it. Keep reading DC Comics, and remember to never get lost in the Speed Force.